entrepreneurial, leadership, intellectual. This is the Cultural Connections Podcast.
My name is Brian Ives. I'm the host and the producer of the Cultural Connections podcast. Before I introduce our guest today, I want to remind all of our viewers watching at home that we are recording this episode live stream to YouTube on Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. And we invite you to submit your questions today on the podcast. So if you have a question for our guest, please feel free to comment below, and we'll do our best to answer them live. Today we have an incredible episode for you. I'm going to leave it at that. A really incredible episode of what I call strength, courage, and change at that. And we're talking about for something I think that not many people see, especially here in the States where we're recording the podcast from. Don't hear much about this or didn't hear much about this. Last summer, in around the July 2024 timeframe, was a revolution of change in Bangladesh with their government, and it was led by students. And the story is incredible, and how students, how young people really can make a difference. Today on the podcast, we're joined by one of those leaders that helped to make the change, by Mir Rahman. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much to you also for inviting me in this such an amazing show.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, what I'd like to do for this podcast, we're going to hear about your story, and you have quite the incredible story of, as I just said, I mean, of change and in general, just your story, which we're going to find more details about in just a minute, is really a story that has strength, it has courage, and it has a whole host of different adjectives that can be used to share it. And I won't go in depth on all the different words that can be used to describe it, but instead, but I want you to start off by giving our viewers here and our people watching a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about your background, and then we'll get more in depth into the revolution of change in Bangladesh.
Thank you so much. So my name is Mir Mahbubur Rahman and my nickname is Snigdho, and people call me Mir. So I have completed my bachelor's from a reputed university in Bangladesh, and currently I am looking for my master's degree, and I am a student. And as you already said, that there was a revolution in July in Bangladesh. So that revolution got a change in our country, and that revolution was led by students. So we are three brothers, and I had a twin brother whose name was Mir Mahfuzur Rahman, and his nickname was Mir Mugdho. So in that revolution, he has lost his life. He was only distributing water and biscuits to other protesters to help them in this hot summer, and therefore he was shot in his forehead, and he was killed in that protest. So he was my twin brother. He was not only my brother, he was more than a brother for me. He was my friend, he was my best friend. Because as you all know, all the twin brothers have connections with each other because we uh, got birth together. So uh, from our childhood, we shared everything from our mother's stomach to wearing clothes to foods, everything we shared. So after 26 years, we were only 26 years, and at this stage, he is now not in this world, but I am still here. So it was at 18th of July when uh, he died. He was killed. Actually, he was killed by the previous government, previous fascist government, which we say fascist government. So after that, on the 18th of July, after his death, a video which of Mugdho, he was distributing water and biscuits. It went into the social media, and everyone came to the streets in demand of the justice of killing Mugdho. So that turned into a revolution, and and because of that, the previous government had to step down, and the new government had to take over. So I would say that that is my introduction for now. Everyone now knows me as Mugdho's brother,
Mm.
Mugdho's twin brother, because our face looks like similar because we are twin. So whenever I go into streets, people know me because of Mugdho, because our face is similar, and everyone I see that everyone says that, hey, look, there is Mugdho's brother going, and everyone come to me, give me. They talk with me, they take selfies with me in the honor of Mugdho. So I would say that that's the biggest introduction of mine, that now I'm the brother of Mir Mugdho.
No, that's remarkable. It's truly, just truly remarkable. And I want to get more in depth into some of the story here. Specifically starting off with, let's look back to last July when all of this uprising really happened. And I think it's, again, for those here in the States, we didn't see, obviously this was not something that caught our attention here in the media here. But I mean, myself as someone who follows journalism, worldwide journalism, I certainly was following it. And let's start with in July when this first happened. And let's go back to the around the time of, like, right when your brother had passed and the beginning of the this uprising. What I guess for our viewers that really don't understand, let me backtrack for a second. What led to finally, I mean, that it was enough, that the people had had enough with the old government and went to the streets and started rallying on this and protesting on this? What led to it?
Let me start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the July, uh, uh, there was a decision taken by the government that they will not reform the quota system in our government job sectors. So let me give you another example. There is more than 60% quotas in our government job system. So which clearly shows the discrimination. The sons or the grandsons of the freedom fighters from the 1971, they could have used more than 30% quota in the job sectors, which clearly was a discrimination, because that was 1971 and now this is 2024. So the protest started because of this, for reforming the quota system in Bangladesh. So while doing this protest, the students went into the roads and demanded their right to the government. It was a peaceful protest, but the government started going brutal. Uh, at, at the 16th of July, the first student called Abu Said, he lost his life in this protest. Then after 16 July, there was 17, 18. At the 18th of July, my brother lost his life. So
Mhm.
more than in this protest, more than 2,000 peoples have lost their lives. 2,000 peoples and students has lost their life. So while it was a peaceful protest, the previous government showed brutality. So it shocked the nation. It shocked the whole people, the peoples of the whole nation. Then they started demanding the justice for this lives who have lost their lives, and it went more brutal. The government started doing more brutality. So then the protesters who were in the roads, they decided that now this is the time to take down the government, because we cannot live our life with this fascist government, where people need to give their lives for demanding their rights, for demanding their fair rights. So that's how the people got involved with take down this government. and to step down this fascist government. So that's how it turned into a revolution from a peaceful quota reform protest.
Wow, that's remarkable. Now let's talk about. Actually, before I go further, I just do again want to remind our viewers at home that are watching and just tuning in that this is the Cultural Connections podcast, and we are live on Wednesday, March 26th, 2025, and we're live streaming here on YouTube. So therefore, if you have a question for our guest, please feel free to comment below, and we will do our best to get your question here live on YouTube. My next question then to you is the change in the government, and you went from having a almost, I guess, way, but a tyrant for a leader that really that obviously people were ready for the change, and you brought in someone who people have been now at least feeling, I think, more hopeful by the name of Muhammad Yunus. Can you tell us a little bit more who Muhammad Yunus is for our viewers that really don't know him? And why, what was the reason behind, what made people think he was the right choice, at least for the interim, to bring change?
Let me answer this question, but before answering this question, I want
Right.
to add some more information on your last question.
Sure.
So, another thing, why this protest turned into a revolution to take down the government is that the innocent protesters who did not had any weapons in their hands, like my brother was distributing water and biscuits, so he did not had any harmful weapons or anything in his hand. So, innocent peoples like him got killed, and more than 2,000 peoples and more than 20,000 peoples are injured in that protest. So they that's why this protest turned into a revolution. So this is a very remarkable numbers. That's why I wanted to share it with the audience.
Well,
And now I'm going to answer your next question about Dr. Mahmoud Yunus.
yeah.
Actually, let me be honest, he is a magician in our country. He is the only person from our country who has won the Nobel Prize in peace. So
Mm,
he is the I will not be wrong if I say that he is the only global celebrity in our country. Everyone from the world knows about him. So when at the at the 5th August, when the previous government fled away, there was no government in our country till 18th of August. Like that, 3 days has passed, but there was no government in our country. So the leaders of this protest, the students, wanted to take someone in the government to lead the government so that uh, people can admire that person, and people and that person is reputed in the whole world. So that is when the name Dr. Mohammad Yunus came into the mind to the leaders of this protest. So then we all together decided that uh, uh, there there uh, there is only one person who can control the situation right now, and he is Dr. Mohammad Yunus, and and that is when everyone decided to call him and to request him to be so that he can come back to the country and he can take the lead of this government. And another most precious thing that why we chose him, because of his intellectual thinking, because of his ability to manage everything, to and because of his connections to the world. He's a Nobel oriented person, and we all know that he is a global celebrity in the whole world. So we wanted to use his connections. We wanted to uh, use his whole ability to control this situation and to run this country. So that's how we decided that Dr. Mohamed Yunus will be the next prime minister or the chief advisor of this country.
wow, it's remarkable. It's truly, truly remarkable. And that's the only word that I could use to describe it. Let's talk a little bit more in depth here about the student revolution, these protests, and I'd like to hear more, if you don't mind, about that day. I think you said it was in July of when your brother lost his life, and what would I mean? what what was going on that day? Describe that day, and and how just things transpire, and how things were really transpiring that day.
Uh, the date was 18th of July, and uh, as like other days, it started well, very well. Me and my brother both are freelancers, so we work so late to uh, in a day. So that day also we also worked so lately, and we wake up so lately. So after waking up, I had a accident before 2 days of that. That's why I was so much injured. So that day he decided that he will help the protesters with distributing water and biscuits. And and as he thought that, he called some of his friends, some of our friends, and he planned how he will help the protesters. And around 3 p.m. he went out uh, and uh, and got the water bottles so that he can distribute this among the protesters. And while distributing that water bottles and biscuits, he got shot into his forehead, and he lost his life there. I have a video of him distributing water bottles. I think you have a video, right?
The following video is courtesy of CNN.
In the searing afternoon heat, tear gas hanging thickly in the air, 25-year-old Mugdho hands out bottles of water. Does anyone need water? Water, brother, water. The maths graduate doing his MBA had been watching the protests on the streets of Dhaka Grove and decided he too wanted to play a role by helping fellow students. But 15 minutes after this video was filmed, Mugdho was shot in the head. His identical twin Snigdho raced to the hospital, but Mugdho was already dead. A small birthmark beneath his right eye was the only way people could tell them apart.
I'm watching him and I can see that he's sleeping the way he always sleep. I didn't have any realization in my whole body. I just hugged him and I cried for almost 30 minutes.
He is your twin. He is part of you.
He was not only my brother, he was my best friend. People will forget him after some days. I cannot forget him because he is with my face, he is with my soul, and he is with my body.
Mugdho's death was a tipping point for the student-led protest that began early July over a quota system that gave preferential treatment in government jobs. But the brutal and deadly crackdown ordered by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to extinguish the protests backfired, igniting a firestorm of pent-up anger, frustration and defiance by a population tired of her increasingly authoritarian rule.
Anybody of my age, we have never been able to vote in a diplomatic manner. We have never attended election because we've never given the rights. We have never had a choice. There is no alternative.
But for the Prime Minister, whose father founded Bangladesh, her 15-year iron rule had come to an end. As tens of thousands marched towards her residence calling for her resignation, Hasina boarded a helicopter and fled to neighbouring India. Jubilation was short-lived before Bangladesh descended into lawlessness. Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus has returned to Dhaka to set up an interim government, appealing for calm and an end to the violence. But that's cold comfort for the mother of 13-year-old Mubarak. His TikTok videos is all she has left. Oh God, there is so much pain in my heart, she wails. But as one of the hundreds reportedly killed over the past month, his father believes his death will not be in vain. My son has been martyred for this movement, he explains. This is for all people, for the future of Bangladesh. Anna Corrin, CNN.
So, while distributing water bottles and biscuits, he got shot in his forehead and he lost his life. and he was taken to the hospital by the other protesters. And I was informed. Only me and Mugdho was in home. My parents were out of Dhaka because of a program. So I was only in the home to and when I heard about him, I ran into the hospital. And when I saw him, I saw that he's just sleeping. He's just sleeping the way he always sleeps. And there was a bandage in his head, which was covering the sign, uh, which was covering the sign where he got hit. So I did not knew that he got hit by the real bullet. So I thought that he is injured and now he is taking rest. So almost 5 minutes passed. I was just sitting beside him. Then doctor came and told me that your brother Mugdho is no more. He has lost his life. I was so shocked. I thought that it is not true. I told the doctor that please ensure me by doing another test, which is called I think CPR, CRP. So there was a machine which was showing his heartbeat. So I told him that please reset this machine and show me his heartbeat. So
Mm.
the doctor reset that machine and show me his heartbeat. There was no reaction on his heartbeat.
Oh,
So that's when I finally realized that yes, finally yes, Mugdho is no more, and he has lost his life.
oh.
So I was so shocked that the only thing I remember that I called my elder brother, and I
Mm,
told him, uh, that Mugdho is no more. Please come back as soon as possible, and please don't inform our parents about this because our parents is too much old. If they
right.
get to know about this instantly, we do not know how they will react or how they will come. So my brother and my parents were in Chittagong. Uh, it's almost 8 hours distance from Dhaka. So
Mm,
he did not told anything about Mugdho to our parents. He silently uh, told my father that Mugdho is injured. Mugdho had a bike accident. So we need to go to the hospital to see him. He's fine. There is nothing to worry about it. Uh,
right.
so until my parents came close to the body of Mugdho, they did not knew about Mugdho that he has lost his life. So after at the next day, uh, morning 9 a.m. when our parents reached to the Dhaka, they came to our house and then they knew that Mugdho is no more. And
Mm,
you can imagine the situation there. Our parents were so shocked, and my mother lost his sense multiple times.
yeah.
That was a very hurtful situation there. And you will be amazed to know that after uh, Mugdho lost his life, we faced so much trouble to bury him because the previous government was not giving us the permission to bury him in any place. So we had to take so much trouble because of that. After searching whole night where we can bury him, we found a place where we can bury him without informing government. So at the next day, almost 12 hours later, we found the place and we silently buried him in that place. So that's how troubles we got from the previous government. Even after Mugdho lost his life, uh, uh, the previous government was giving us so much trouble. So that was the situation that day.
Wow. There are no words. I mean, I think that's as simple as it can be put. There aren't any words for anything what you just said. And again, those watching now later on, not on the live stream, will be able to see the recording of what I'm talking about. So you will see all of that, and I'll have that up here. You will see that in a little bit. But when I first, I want to backtrack onto for a few seconds here on that day. Was your do you think the government was specifically there targeting your brother as one of the leaders there, and that's why he was shot in the head, or were they just randomly trying to like get at people that were against what was going on? Or did he just happen to be right in the line of fire from where what they were doing?
We are not sure about that, but as far as we investigated, we can say that they were uh, they were randomly firing bullets to the protesters
Mm,
because at in that day uh, almost more than 30 people have lost their lives and more than 100 people were injured in that day. So we can say that, and that was between 5:30 p.m. To 6 p.m. So we can say that for that 30 minutes, they were firing the bullets randomly. So and uh, I do not know. Mugdho was the first one in that day who got shot. So it might be possible that he was targeted. Then the brush fire started. So
mm.
we cannot assure it until the investigation is finished.
Okay, so you're saying there's still an ongoing investigation even as of today. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's fast forward as time goes on. I mean, as you've mentioned, the brutality unfortunately really got worse within the weeks to come, really, as what it appears to be. And finally, you have the change in the government, you have a change in a new interim leader. And as a result of this, I think originally you now have a foundation that you're running, which is remarkable, the July Martyrs Foundation. Let's talk about this foundation. What is this foundation, and talk about the work of it and its mission?
Uh, so the name of this foundation is July Shohid Sriti Foundation, and in English, if we say it is July Martyrs Memorial Foundation. So
Hmm.
the president of this foundation is our honorable chief advisor, Dr. Mohammed Yunus, and currently I'm working as a CEO, I mean Chief Executive Officer of this foundation. So when the idea of this foundation came from Dr. Mohammed Yunus. He was the first one who thought that we should build an organization or build a foundation which will help the injured peoples and which will help the martyrs families of all time, no matter whichever government will come in future. He always wanted a body which can work injured for this injured and martyrs families uh, for the rest of their life. So that's why he got this idea to found this foundation. And when he got this idea, his office contacted with me, and they gave me this offer to be the leader of this foundation. So I was so depressed after losing my brother. I was totally broken. So when I got this opportunity and when I got this news about this foundation, I found a purpose of my life again, because my brother was helping other protesters uh, by distributing water and biscuits. So then I got the purpose of my life, that I should fulfill my brother's unfinished dream. His dream was unfinished to help the other protesters. So I instantly took this opportunity, and I accepted this offer to be the leader of this foundation. Then I was called, and at the first day I met with Dr. Mohammed Yunus. He said me that now you have a responsibility, and now it is your duty to fulfill your brother's unfinished dream. And I was so happy that he chose me to fulfill this big responsibility. Let me give you a background of this foundation. What are the purposes of this foundation? July Martyrs Memorial Foundation was found to help the injured peoples of this protest and to martyrs families of this protest. Uh, the main purpose of this foundation is to rehabilitate the martyrs families and is to rehabilitate to the injured peoples from this protest. And another main goal of this foundation is to keep the legacy alive of this revolution. So there are the two main goals of this foundation, and there are the very big responsibilities because rehabilitating the martyrs families and injured peoples are not as much easy because there are more than 2,000 martyrs families and there are more than 20,000 uh, injured peoples. Some of the injured peoples have lost their eyes and lost their hands or have lost their legs. So it is a very crucial scene. If you ever come to Bangladesh, if you ever visit to Bangladesh, if you go to the hospitals where they're admitted, you can see the brutality of this protest. Uh, so uh, and so this is the work of the foundation, and also keeping the legacy alive of this revolution is a very important thing in our country because people forget everything so easily. So we need to keep remind them that there are 20,000 people who have lost their life in this revolution. They are watching us from uh, from the sky so that we can build a new country. So
Mhm.
those are the big goals of this foundation.
Oh, it's a remarkable foundation. It's incredible that you get to be the one to basically be in charge of this foundation. Let's before I go any further, again, I want to remind all of our viewers that are watching here that this is the Cultural Connections podcast. We are recording this episode live on Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. And we are recording this episode live to YouTube. And we're talking really about the incredible story about the student revolution of story of change in Bangladesh with government and the aftermath, and it's the story really of courage now, I think, and you can even say hope as time goes on. And we are joined by one of those student leaders with us today. My next question here, then, to you as we start to slowly but surely reach the end of our podcast today, is to think more on where things are today and how things are changing and what I guess the question is what comes next. What I mean, how do you move forward, and what comes next for both the government and the student revolution in Bangladesh?
So our main aim is currently to rebuild our country, to reform all the sectors of our country. Uh, if you if you search about Bangladesh, you can see that Bangladesh is famous for corruption. Bangladesh is famous for irregularities, uh, and Bangladesh is famous uh, uh, for so many negative things. So our country, in the last 16 years, under the fascist government, all the sectors of our country were corrupted, especially the election system, uh, the uh, uh, especially the election system, and especially the constitution of our country, where uh, uh, were reform were organized like the like them. So all the sectors of our country was corrupted. So our main aim is currently now to reform all the sectors of our country. So under the leadership of Dr. Mohammad Yunus, we're already doing so much great things. The country is currently improving so fastly, but some of the political parties wants elections as soon as possible. But we, the students, and we, the general peoples who were involved with the revolution, we all want to reform our country first correctly. Then we want election because this 2,000 students, 2,000 peoples did not give their life just to hand over the election or just to transfer the power from one political party to another political party. So that's why we want Dr. Mohammad Yunus government should stay as some time. and so that they can reform all the sectors of this country, and we can uh, we saw a future of we saw a bright future of Bangladesh. So we want Dr. Mohammad Yunus to make this dream come true. Then he can give the election and transfer the power. So that's our main motive currently right now.
Oh, it's remarkable. And I think, in my own opinion here, it gives people hope around the world and other governments that are facing similar situation. I think here in the States, here, where obviously where I am, where things are a lot of disagreement between the whole political system here in the United States is a mess right now. I think it gives people hope that really change can happen. It is possible if we all come together to make it happen. It's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be overnight. It's not might not even be next week or next month, but it will happen. And this story today that you have shared with us, I think, clearly exemplifies that and is a remarkable story. And I really want to thank you again for taking the time to educate our audience because, as I said at the very beginning of this podcast, here in the States, we in our mainstream media here, this was not something you heard about on our regular news. And I think because at that time last summer, we were just in the middle of our own election cycle at that time, a lot of people not knowing what was going to happen here next in the States. There was a lot of concern about that. So there wasn't really at that point in time focus on the global affairs abroad to see what was going on in other countries. And to hear a story like this and to know that things like this can happen by the voters, by the citizens of the country shows that yes, change is possible and it can happen in the right way, even though unfortunately, yes, there are things like what you described happen, but it shows that a change is certainly 100% possible. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today, and it has really been eye-opening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
Now,
so much. Thank you so much for inviting me also.
absolutely. Thank you. And again, to our viewers at home, if you missed any part of this episode of the podcast, of course, you can go back and rewatch the entire thing. And those watching the edited version here, that'll be up after this live stream, will be able to see the videos and the images that were discussed during the broadcast here. So you will be able to see that we apologize that they were not available during the live stream. If you have questions or comments that you would like that you did not get to get answered during the podcast today, please feel free to get in contact with me directly at brianives@gmail.com. That's BRIANIV as in Victor ES@gmail.com. And we also invite you to submit your ideas for future episodes also to that same email address. And we're open to all ideas for this podcast. So please feel free again to email me directly and I take all ideas into consideration. And again, we appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Cultural Connections Podcast. I'm Brian Ives. I'm the producer and the host of the Cultural Connections Podcast. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you again for watching this episode of the Cultural Connections Podcast. For more information on today's episode, be sure to check out our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also watch this episode again in its entirety on our YouTube channel. This podcast is also available on listening platforms Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Radio Public, and New TV. Thanks again for watching this episode of the Cultural Connections Podcast.